tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Good morning. Happy Sober Tuesday. Hope you're having a good day. Oh, good day. Are we having a good day? All right. Yeah. Yep. Oh, no. Yeah, it's an okay day. It's an okay day. Not really much happening. Why does everything have to be so negative? Why does everything have to be so darn negative, man? Why can't we just allow people to have their own and be okay with it? You know, sometimes I think that what is shown to me is very intentional. They want me mad. They want me to stay angry. They want division. It's what they want. You're easier to control when you're divided. You know, there's one company, it's called the National Alliance for Homelessness. All right, they've been in business since 1983. They have not done anything. It's worse. That's how you know they haven't done anything, right? I mean, actions show kind of everything. But let me grab a Zofran real quick. But yeah, they do a lot of posting and stuff. And, you know, lately they've been posting about how, you know, POTUS has been taking all their money. It's because you've been abusing it, guys. You've been abusing it. You haven't been, you're too busy complaining about the POTUS, too busy worrying about this, worrying about that, when you were hired to think outside the box to help these people, but you ain't doing it. You'd rather go online and complain about what's going on, or you like to create, you know, Pride Month, you know. And you guys know me well enough. I'm an ally. I'm probably more of an ally than most people that are LGBTQ that think that you need to be the center of attention. No, you don't, man. Mm-mm. So I called them out on it. Some, you know, some LGBTQ were upset, telling me that, you know, maybe I should, you know, blah blah, do this and do that. You know, I do a lot of stuff. I help a lot of people. You know, we said this wasn't an ad; it was a post. And you think it doesn't cost money? You think it doesn't take time to put those posts together? That somebody wasn't hired to do it or anything else? When that money could have gone towards, I don't know, feeding a child. That's what I'm talking about. They don't even need to. The National Alliance for Homelessness does not even need to be on Facebook. It does not need to have social media. Homeless people don't have social media, my friends. That's the abuse we're talking about. We're going for recovery equity here. It means everybody gets the same chance. It's what it means. Good morning, Michelle. Good to see you. It means everybody gets the same chance at recovery. Everybody gets the same shot at life. Everyone. I don't give a fuck who you are. You'll get the same thing from me. Ain't got time. Don't have time for division. Ain't got time for everybody's anger. Watch what you align yourself with. Even if you don't agree with it, I get it. There's a lot of things I don't agree with, but I've got to watch where I advocate. I know I do. Might be different for you. I don't know. I know I'm not just an odd duck. I'm an oddly odd duck, and so I find that I think differently than a lot of other people, but and that's okay too. How are we ever going to get to answers? Even yesterday, we had somebody. They were trying to bomb. They were trying to start a fight, and I wasn't going to allow it to happen. They just wanted to disrupt what I was doing. I knew it immediately, and I already knew what I was going to do. I invited him back. I love to educate, and if you give me a chance, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to educate. I might get a little feisty about it. Right? Right? We are not meant to live in this world. God wants us to have joy and happiness in our lives and serenity. That's what He wants. Stop fighting each other. No, you know. All right. Hey, don't do it to your own detriment. Okay. Right. You're worth more than being divided through anger. You're worth more than that. All right. So am I. So, welcome to Daily Trudge. Today we're talking about a spiritual kindergarten. If you're here, please say hello, whether you're watching the live or the rewatch. I think my main watcher is at the dentist. That's right. I know about my watchers, man. But my count has plummeted. There's a lot of stuff going on out there right now. So people have better things to do than, it is, you'll hear me say things like I'm not a priority, things like that. I'm okay with that. I don't know why people, oh, you're a priority. Shut the fuck up. No, I'm not. I get it. I don't need to be a priority. But there is this thing called human decency. Let's just go with it. Right now, well, let's just get to this. All right, spiritual kindergarten. So we're in As Bill Sees It, page 95, and it looks like it also wants us to go to AA Comes of Age. So we're probably going to go there also. So the spiritual kindergarten, this was a letter written in 1954. Of course, only a part of it. Says we are only operating a spiritual garden in which people are enabled to get over drinking and find the grace to go on living a better effect. Each man's theology has to be his own quest, his own affair. I cannot stress enough. I cannot stress this enough. Your relationship with your higher power is the most personal thing in the world. I want you to find what you're looking for, not what I was looking for. I want you to have the same joy, the same chance. I'm a different person than you. I've got different needs, different wants, different ambitions in this life. Great thing about God is He can be everything to everyone all at once. Yeah. I don't know how it's done. I don't need to know how it's done. Right? So when we talk about a spiritual kindergarten, we're talking about just getting started. We're just giving, AA is just giving you the basics. That's all it's doing. We're not, I mean, the whole point of the book is enable you to find a higher power by which you can live. It's literally the whole point of the book. We don't need you to believe in a certain type, or because we understand that it's not going to work for you. You're an alcoholic. Maybe it might work for non-alcoholics. I don't know. I ain't one, so I don't know. I don't know how they think. I don't know how they do that stuff. But I know for alcoholics, I've noticed this, that people that don't really insert, and you can run around say that you talk to God and all this other stuff, but I've seen plenty of people do that, and it's your actions. It is always your actions. You can say whatever you want, but it's your actions that are going to decide what actually, what people actually think. We're gonna go to page 162 in AA Comes of Age. If you have the book, I just so happen to have it. I do not have. Whoa, what happened there? My chat went away. My chat overlay. My chat overlay went away. Does it change for you guys when I do this? You guys, does it change anything? It does for me. So I'm just wondering. Oh, you can't see my chat overlay, so never mind. That's silly. That's a silly question. All right. So we're going to start on page, it said 16. Let me recheck this because my number, I have been very off with my numbers lately. All right, so it wants 162 to 163 and 167. So we might do a little hopping around here. All right. All right, we're actually going to go back to 162, 161 down at the bottom. I apologize. I should have been a little bit more prepared. All right. So they're talking about God here, just so you know. Give you a little bit of background on it. At this moment, a couple of late callers arrived. One of them was my boon companion of those days, Howard A. With him was a newcomer, dry barely 3 months. I was greatly pleased with what I had written, and I read them the new version of the program, now the 12 steps. Howard and his friend reacted violently. Why 12 steps? They demanded. And then, you've got too much God in these steps. You'll scare people away. And what do you mean by getting those drunks down on their knees when they have to ask help for all their shortcomings removed? And who wants all their shortcomings removed anyhow? As he saw my uneasiness, Howard added, well, some of this stuff does sound pretty good after all, but Bill, you've got to tone it down. It's too stiff. The average alcoholic just won't buy it the way it stands. This is some of the original 100 that said, Bill, because step seven used to say that you got down on your knees and prayed to God to remove your shortcomings. That was the exact verbiage of it. I don't hear people talking about getting down on their knees much anymore. I don't. I'm going to tell you something. I don't get down on my knees either. I do, however, bow my head and show some respect. Right? I do. So if you're one of those people that want to get down on their knees, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, absolutely nothing. Keep your shoes under your bed. There you go. Because then you got to get down on your knees to put them under. That was one of the suggestions, right? So this 12 steps originally had a little too much God in it. It was too stiff. Okay. Bill was kind of a conceited asshole. He was. It's okay. A lot of us are. That's why we had the original 100 to redline the big book. And they did. And we got the steps that we got now. Okay. 6 of those steps, all Bill really did was take the 6 tenets from the Oxford group and add what is called a preparation step before it. That's what he did. He put a preparation step in front of it. Yeah. Michelle says that causes pain to get on my knees, and then my HP has no set requirements. Yeah. See, a lot of people just can't. And I don't think God is going to get all mad and huffy, but oh, you didn't get down on your knees, so therefore, I'm sorry, but my higher power doesn't work that way. No. What they want is trust and some humility. That's it. That's it. And to do their will. Nowhere in the big book does it say you need to get down on your knees. Nowhere. For very good reason. Okay? Because even if we're told to get down on our knees and pray, we have resistance. And we want the least resistance from us as possible. Right? I sprang to the defense of the new creation, every single word of it. A terrific discussion developed, which cooled only by Lois turned up a couple hours later. Why don't you forget about it for a while, she said, and have a cup of coffee? This we did. Acronites like Paul and Dick X like the new steps very much. As the remainder of the book text developed based on the 12 steps, they continue to report their approval. But in New York, the hot debate about the 12 steps and the book's contents was doubled and redoubled. There were conservatives, liberals, and radical viewpoints. Fitz M., the Episcopal minister's son from Maryland, and the second man to recover at Towns Hospital, made constant journeys to New York in order to reinforce their conservative position. Fitz thought that it ought to be Christian. Well, of course he did. He grew up Episcopal. I'm going to tell you something. There's nothing worse than a preacher's son in AA. These are the people that divide groups, go start their own stuff. They start ministries. We've got one in Colorado. Yeah. He didn't give a fuck about dividing things or anything else. He don't give a fuck. He does not care. Okay? He acts like he cares, but his actions do not show that. But people just are basing it off of that. They don't want to see it. They want to see it. They just want to be a part of the popularity game because now they feel like they belong. Got to be very careful. Nothing worse than a pastor's son in AA, especially a very intelligent one. I've seen it happen several times. Several times, at least five times since I've been in the program. All right. So he thought it ought to be Christian in the doctrinal sense of the word and that it should say so. He was favoring using biblical terms and expressions to make this clear. Another early New York AA, Paul K., was even more emphatic about this. I can tell you now, I would not have joined AA. And I guarantee you 90% of the people on the program right now would say, if it was that way, we would not have joined. It's one of the great things about AA is that it doesn't matter. Religion doesn't matter to us. You get to pick your own. We use plain language. We don't use these and thous and well and whilst and that kind of stuff. No. Very simple. It's got to be kept simple. It has to be. If it isn't simple, it isn't going to work. Why does it need to be simple? Because alcoholics like to make things bigger than they are. That's why. Because alcoholics, everybody, I don't know of anybody that really likes being told what to do. Well, there might be some people out there that are like that. They like being told what to do. They call it direction. Right? But alcoholics do not like being told what to do. We've always been told what the fuck to do. Always. And we are rebellious. We are rebellious. All right. The liberals were the largest contingent, and they had no objection to the use of the word God throughout the book, but they were dead set against any other theological propositions. They would have to do nothing. They would have nothing to do with doctrinal issues. Spirituality, yes, but religion, no. Positively, no. Most of our members, they pointed out, believed in some sort of deity. But when it came to theology, we could not possibly agree among ourselves. So how could we write a book that contained any such matter? There was no such thing as group opinion in these areas, and there never could be. Alcoholics who had tried the missions were forever complaining about this thing. The alcoholics' unreasoning rebellion against specifically religious approach had been severely handicapped the missions. So see, it had been tried before. It did not work. We're going to learn from the past. Right? The liberals said they did not intend to be critical. They only wanted us to remember the hard facts. These contentions could not be denied. It was true that we could not agree on religious basis for our fellowship, and that the straight religious approach had worked in relatively few cases. Now, I'm going to tell you, there's a group out there called the Oxford Group, and they're still around. They are Christian based. They follow the teachings of Jesus. Okay? And it does work for some people. Some people that are willing to go that route as a higher power. Okay? Or it may even be somebody who's at least willing to listen. That works too. But even then, the Oxford Group, you know what they do, and this is where we got the idea from. If you go back to Bill's story, what does Ebby say? Ebby says, you don't have to choose, you don't have to follow anybody else's God. Why don't you try choosing your own? And it was that line that changed Bill's mind. That it was that line that opened him up to the sunlight of the Spirit. It was that line that gave him his spiritual experience. It's just the book they use is the Bible. I don't know which one. I guess there's different types and kinds. I don't know. I have my experience, but I do know this. Every time I talk with Pastor Marcia, she pulls what I'm saying right out of the Bible. Every time. It's pretty cool. All right. There was no such thing. I already did all that. All right. Thus, the spiritual pitch and the tone of our book was greatly influenced by the liberals. Good for them, man. But the atheists and agnostics, our radical left wing, were still to make tremendously important contributions. Yep. Right? Led by my friend Henry and obstinately backed by Jim B., a recently arrived salesman, this contingent proceeded to have its innings. At first, they wanted the word God deleted from the book entirely. I could understand that. I can understand why they would want that. I've never been atheist or agnostic, but I am open-minded enough to try and see somebody else's point of view. I am. Okay? Because it disrupts, that word disrupts, even for me it did. It disrupted a little bit of what I thought because of what I had been told in the past. Okay? Yeah, I think it's in Bill's story. He says the word God brought a certain antipathy, which is antipathy. So empathy, well, the opposite of empathy is antipathy. Means you're against it. Rebellious. There again, it's a rebellious state of mind, right? Henry had come to believe in some sort of universal power. We're pushing it though, right? But Jimmy still flabbergasted us by denouncing God at our meetings. Some members have been so angered that they wanted to throw him out of the group. This is also in the 12 by 12, but they didn't name him this. They named him, they gave him a different name. So I don't know. Who knows? There could have been more than one person who shouted out against God in an AA meeting over the years, probably. Probably more than one. Just maybe. All right. But most of us thought it better to let him talk on, believing that eventually he would change his mind, which later he did. What Henry, Jimmy, and company wanted was a psychological book which would lure the alcoholic in. Nope. Look at that sales pitch. Doesn't it feel salesy now? Nope, we're not going to do that either. Once in, the prospect could take God or leave him alone as he wished. To the rest of us, this was a shocking proposal, but happily we listened and eventually learned something of great value. Actually, our group conscience was at work to construct the most acceptable and effective book possible. Every voice in its playing its appointed part to create an outcome that was to be nothing less than providential. What's 167 next? Because we're talking about a spiritual kindergarten. Okay. Now, this is where it started. This is where they were trying to figure it out. Clearly, we went with the word God, which is just a universal word. Most of us say God just so that we're not misunderstood. It's a sacrifice that you make. You're giving up a word. It's okay. What's the other word that they came up with? Higher power, which I prefer, actually. I prefer higher power. But when I'm talking to a group of people, I don't say higher power, I say God, so that everybody knows what I'm talking about. So that they can utilize their version of God also. Right? As the one who had done the writing, I was caught squarely in the middle of all this arguing. The liberals were the larger group, but they barely outnumbered and combined conservatives and radicals. For a while, it looked as if we would bog down into permanent disagreement. Despairing of satisfying everyone, I finally asked that I might be the final judge of what the book said. Saying that we would get nowhere without such a point of decision, most of the group agreed. We began to carry on again. Okay, now we're going to go to 167. And we're going to go to the bottom of the page, is where we're going to start. Just before the manuscript was finished, an event of great significance for our future took place. At the time, it looked just like another battle over the book. The scene was Henry's office in New York, where most of the writing had been done. Present were Fitz, Henry, and our grand little secretary, Ruth, and myself. We were still arguing about the 12 steps. All this time, I had refused to budge on these steps. I would not change a word of the original draft, in which you will remember I consistently used the word God, and in one expression, on our knees, was used. Praying to God on one's knees was still a big affront to Henry. He argued and he begged, he threatened, he quoted Jimmy to back him up. He was positive we would scare off alcoholics by the thousands when they read those 12 steps. Little by little, both Fitz and Ruth came to see the merit of his contentions. Though at first I would have none of it, we finally began to talk about the possibility of compromise. Who first suggested the actual compromise words, I do not know. But they are words well known throughout the length and breadth of AA today. In step 2, we decided to describe God as a power greater than ourselves. There we go. There's another version, power greater than ourselves. God as we understood him. They put a qualification in for you. God as you understand him. See, is very important. It is very important that we understand that part. Okay? So when you hear people say Bill wrote the big book, he wrote the steps. No, he did not. He wrote the first part, but it was redlined a lot. Because he was wrong a lot. Want to know why? Because he's a human being. Right? And then he has the nerve to come and write a book about how wrong he was about everything. What nerve. He didn't want us to repeat what he had done. He had learned his lesson. Most of Bill's writings are about how he was wrong and how he changed it. And now he changed. All right. In steps 3 and 11, we inserted the words God as we understand him. From step 7, we deleted the expression on our knees. And as a lead-in sentence to all the steps, we wrote these words. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. AA steps were to be suggestions only. And if it wasn't done that way, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have come into this program if they were going to tell me what to do, how I had to live my life, telling me that I had to do things. No, we had to base things off of willingness and what that person was willing to do. It was not okay for the members of Alcoholics Anonymous to interfere with you standing in the sunlight of the Spirit. Only you should be able to determine that. Only you. Yeah. All right. When I came to AA, I was run down by the bottle, and I wanted to lose the obsession to drink, but I didn't really know how to do that. I decided to stick around long enough to find out from the ones who went before me. All of a sudden, I was thinking about God. I was told to get a higher power, and I had no idea what one looked like. I found out there are many higher powers. I was told to find God as I understand him, that there was no doctrine of Godhead in AA. I found what worked for me and then asked to restore me to my sanity. The obsession to drink was removed, and one day at a time, my life went on. And I learned how to live sober. Yay! All right, that's going to be it for this one. I think I'm going to go hit a noon meeting. Just because the one I haven't been to. Well, I got to call Adams County too. I can do that right after the meeting. So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Everybody being Michelle. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. It's good to see you. But thank you to all the rewatchers and my listeners, all 6 of them at the moment. I'm not getting many downloads, so something happened. It was hooked up to something called iVox, and then it went away, and then my numbers went from like 60 a day to 10. So I don't know what happened. It is what it is, right? All right. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. I love you. You know I do. Peace out. And